She underwent agonizing electric shock treatments to erase her identity. He whispered, "I'm not Cary Grant," as he died. And Rock Hudson lived in terror for 30 years that one photograph would destroy everything. 21 of Hollywood's brightest stars lived double lives so convincingly that nobody, not the press, not their families, not even their spouses, suspected a thing. Rock Hudson, America's most eligible bachelor, was living a complete lie. Rock Hudson was the embodiment of American masculinity in the 1950s and 60s, 6'4", devastatingly handsome, with a deep voice and an easy charm that made him one of Hollywood's most bankable romantic leads. Women across America fantasized about becoming Mrs. Rock Hudson. Magazine covers breathlessly asked, "Why won't Rock Hudson marry?" The cruel irony? Rock Hudson couldn't marry any of them. He was living one of Hollywood's most carefully guarded secrets. Hudson was born Roy Harold Scherer Jr. in 1925 in Winnetka, Illinois. When talent agent Henry Wilson discovered him, he created a new identity, Rock Hudson, the ultimate all-American bachelor. The studio publicity machine arranged dates with starlets and planted stories about his search for the perfect wife. Behind this carefully constructed facade, Hudson was in relationships with men. His true romantic life had to be conducted in absolute secrecy. Meetings in carefully selected private locations, relationships disguised as friendships, constant vigilance against photographers. The pressure intensified in 1955 when Confidential magazine began investigating Hudson. The tabloid had sources claiming evidence about his private life. This was the nightmare scenario. Public exposure that would destroy his career instantly. The studio arranged a desperate solution. Hudson would marry Phyllis Gates, his agent's secretary. The marriage was presented as a love match. In reality, it was a calculated arrangement designed to silence the rumors. For 3 years, they maintained the performance before divorcing in 1958. The double life continued for nearly 3 more decades. Hudson became one of Hollywood's biggest stars, appearing in romantic comedies opposite Doris Day. The irony wasn't lost on him. He was most successful playing the very thing he could never actually be. What made Hudson's double life particularly tragic was the constant terror. He lived for 30 years knowing that everything could be destroyed at any moment. One vindictive former partner, one photographer in the wrong place, one slip of the tongue. The fear never left him. In 1984, Hudson was diagnosed with acquired immune deficiency syndrome. For months, he kept even this secret. In July 1985, he collapsed in Paris. The truth could no longer be contained. The revelation shocked the world. Rock Hudson, the ultimate symbol of American masculinity, was not only in relationships with men, but was dying from the disease that had become the face of a health crisis. His announcement transformed public awareness overnight. Rock Hudson passed away on October 2, 1985, at age 59. He was one of the first major celebrities to perish from complications of the disease, forcing America to finally have conversations it had been avoiding. The man who had spent 30 years in fear of a single photograph that might reveal his secret ended up becoming the public face of a disease, forcing Hollywood to confront what many had known but never acknowledged. The ultimate romantic leading man who could never have the romance he actually wanted. The most eligible bachelor who could never actually be eligible. He lived in constant fear, and when the secret finally came out, it changed everything. But if you think inventing phantom families is elaborate, wait until you see what the next star did. He erased his entire identity. Raymond Burr, Perry Mason's invented family. Raymond Burr portrayed television's most upstanding attorney, Perry Mason, a man of absolute integrity who never lost a case. For 9 years, Americans invited Burr into their homes weekly, off-screen. Burr was living one of Hollywood's most elaborate deceptions, inventing an entire tragic backstory, complete with phantom wives and a child who never existed. To explain his bachelor status, Burr created a fiction so detailed it could fill a novel. He told interviewers he had been married to a Scottish actress named Annette Sutherland, who perished in a plane crash in 1943. They had a son together, he claimed, who tragically succumbed to leukemia at age 10. Burr could describe his wedding day in Scotland, his wife's favorite songs, his son's birthday, his favorite toys. Some versions included a second late wife, Laura Andrina Morgan. But here's what no one expected. Journalists never questioned these claims. Who would fabricate something so painful? The answer: a desperate man protecting the only life he could actually live. The truth? None of it was real. No marriage records, no passing certificates, no birth certificate for the son. Burr had invented it all, a masterclass in creating a believable cover story. While maintaining this public fiction, Burr was actually living with Robert Benavides in a committed relationship that would last 35 years. They built a life together that included a successful orchid business on their California ranch, but always as business partners in public. Burr went to extraordinary lengths to maintain the deception. When pressed about his personal life, he would become emotional, discussing his lost family, effectively shutting down questions. The pain in his voice was real, not for the family he'd lost, but for the life he couldn't openly live. The performance was so convincing that even people who worked closely with Burr for years believed the story. No one suspected that the memories themselves were fabrications. Remarkably, the truth wasn't discovered until after Burr's passing in 1993. When biographers began investigating, they found no trace of the wives or child. They contacted Scottish authorities and found nothing. What's perhaps most touching is what Burr did with the love he couldn't express publicly. Burr was extraordinarily generous, quietly supporting dozens of foster children, funding scholarships, and sponsoring orphans internationally. His fabricated late son became, in a way, dozens of living children whose lives he transformed. But if you think inventing phantom families is elaborate, wait until you see what the next star did. She erased her entire identity. Merle Oberon, the exotic beauty, hiding in plain sight. When audiences gazed at Merle Oberon's stunning beauty in Wuthering Heights, they saw exactly what the studio wanted: an exotic English rose from aristocratic British stock in Tasmania, Australia. The reality? Merle Oberon was born Estelle Merle O'Brien Thompson in Bombay, India in 1911. Her mother was a teenager of mixed Sinhalese, Maori, and Irish ancestry who had been harmed. Young Estelle was raised believing her grandmother was her mother, and her actual mother was her older sister. When she arrived in Hollywood, the studio recognized immediately that her true background would be career poison. In an era of strict prejudicial codes, any hint of mixed ancestry meant relegation to stereotypical roles, if she could work at all. So they invented a new identity: Tasmania, Australia. The location was brilliant. Records there had been destroyed in a fire, making verification impossible. Oberon maintained this fiction with obsessive care for her entire life. She underwent painful treatments to lighten her complexion. She demanded special lighting on every set, insisting on specific angles that minimized any hint of her natural coloring. But here's where the double life became truly suffocating. Most poignantly, she could never publicly acknowledge her real mother. The woman who had raised her, who she called sister, remained in the background, a supporting player in her daughter's elaborate performance. Constance lived quietly, never contradicting the official story. Even Oberon's husbands weren't told the complete truth. Her children from later marriages grew up believing the official biography, never knowing their grandmother's true identity. The deception took a severe psychological toll. Friends described her as intensely vulnerable beneath her polished exterior, prone to breaking down in private about the loneliness of never being able to share her true identity. Oberon passed away in 1979, her secret intact. Only years later did biographers piece together the truth. The woman who had successfully hidden her identity for decades was finally revealed. Not as the aristocratic Englishwoman she'd pretended to be, but as a survivor who did what she had to do in an impossibly prejudiced industry. And if erasing your heritage sounds extreme, the next star took flamboyance to such heights that when someone suggested the obvious truth, he sued them and won. Liberace, the flamboyant showman, who sued over the truth. Liberace was one of the most successful entertainers of the 20th century, a flamboyant pianist whose elaborate costumes, candelabras, and theatrical performances made him a household name. His largely female audience adored him, convinced the right woman would eventually capture his affectionate nature. The double life Liberace maintained was one of Hollywood's most audacious. Everything about his persona suggested a love of men. The rhinestone-studded capes, the feather boas, the over-the-top showmanship. Yet he steadfastly maintained he was simply a bachelor waiting for the right woman. Behind the scenes, Liberace had relationships with men. His most serious involvement was with Scott Thorson, 40 years his junior, who lived with Liberace for 5 years. Thorson officially worked as his chauffeur, but the relationship was far more intimate. Liberace even arranged for Thorson to undergo cosmetic procedures to make him look more like Liberace himself, a bizarre gesture that spoke to both his vanity and his desire to shape his partner into a more publicly presentable form. What makes Liberace's double life particularly remarkable is how aggressively he defended it. In 1959, when British tabloid The Daily Mirror published an article with veiled suggestions about his orientation, Liberace sued for libel and won. He testified in court with tears streaming, claiming the suggestion had caused him tremendous pain. The jury believed him completely, awarding him damages equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars in today's currency. The verdict reinforced his double life magnificently. If Liberace had been willing to sue and testify under oath, surely the suggestions must be false. His female fans were relieved. His career continued without interruption. Liberace maintained this deception until his passing in 1987. The official announcement cited heart failure. The reality was complications from acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Only after his passing did former partners come forward. Scott Thorson published a memoir and sued the estate. The flamboyant showman who had successfully sued someone for suggesting he loved men was finally revealed to have been living exactly the life he'd so vehemently denied. The tragedy isn't just the deception, it's that he felt he had no choice. Despite his obvious theatricality, he knew being open would have destroyed his career. His audience wanted the fantasy of availability, but at least Liberace's deception was his own choice. What comes next shows how studios forced stars into double lives, sometimes involving three people living a carefully negotiated lie. If you're finding these stories as fascinating as we are, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Hollywood's worst-kept secret that was never spoken. Spencer Tracy was Hollywood's moral compass. The actor who played priests, crusading lawyers, and men of unwavering integrity. He was a devoted Catholic, married to his wife Louise for over 4 decades. His roles in films like Boys Town reinforced this image of moral authority. The double life began in 1941 when Tracy met Katharine Hepburn on the set of Woman of the Year. Within months, they began a relationship that would last 26 years, until Tracy's passing. What made this remarkable was how it operated with a tacit agreement among all who knew. Hollywood insiders knew, journalists knew, fellow actors knew, yet by unspoken agreement, no one reported it. Studio publicists ensured Tracy and Hepburn were never photographed together outside professional contexts. Tracy's Catholic faith prevented him from divorcing Louise, so the relationship with Hepburn existed in a strange limbo. Real and committed, yet officially non-existent. The deception required careful choreography. Tracy would film during the day, sometimes attend public events with his wife, then retreat to Hepburn's house at night. Their 9 films together gave them legitimate professional reasons to spend time together. What made the double life possible was Louise Tracy's remarkable dignity. She knew about Hepburn, but chose to maintain the public marriage. Her reason was noble. She had devoted her life to their son John and to founding the John Tracy Clinic for children with hearing difficulties. A divorce would have brought scandal that could have damaged the clinic. So 3 people lived in a carefully negotiated arrangement. Tracy, the public family man, privately spending his nights with Hepburn. Hepburn, the independent career woman, secretly nursing an unavailable man through his struggles with alcohol and depression. And Louise, the devoted wife, channeling her energy into transforming the lives of children with hearing loss. When Tracy passed away in June 1967, the complexity became painfully clear. Hepburn was with him when he collapsed at her home, but she had to leave before the ambulance arrived. Louise was called and arrived to officially discover her husband's body. At the funeral, Hepburn stayed away entirely. The woman who had been Tracy's true partner for 26 years couldn't publicly mourn the loss. Only after Tracy's passing did Hepburn begin speaking about their relationship. The double life that everyone knew about, but no one acknowledged, was finally given official recognition. And if you think a 26-year secret affair is complicated, imagine keeping an even bigger secret. A secret child that you hid by pretending to adopt your own daughter. Clark Gable and Loretta Young. The secret baby hidden in an orphanage. In 1935, Clark Gable and Loretta Young were both at the height of their careers. When they filmed The Call of the Wild on location, their off-screen affair resulted in an unplanned pregnancy that threatened to destroy both their carefully maintained images. Young's solution was one of Hollywood's most elaborate double lives. As a devout Catholic, Young couldn't acknowledge an affair with a married man or an out-of-wedlock pregnancy. Gable couldn't acknowledge the child without devastating his own marriage and career. Young disappeared from public view, claiming she needed rest. In reality, she was pregnant and hiding. When she gave birth to a daughter in November 1935, Young placed the baby in a facility, keeping the child's existence entirely secret. After sufficient time had passed, Young announced she had adopted a baby girl, never revealing the child was her own biological daughter. She named her Judith. The Catholic Church praised her charitable act. No one suspected the truth. Gable never publicly acknowledged the child. He never visited Judy, never provided financial support beyond what was quietly arranged. As Judy grew older, she began to resemble Gable unmistakably, particularly his distinctive large ears. People would comment. Young deflected with practiced ease, claiming it was pure coincidence. But Judy herself suspected something wasn't right. She would study her own face, then look at photographs of Clark Gable. When she asked her mother, Young repeated the adoption story, becoming emotional. Finally, in 1966, when Judy was 31, Young's priest convinced her to tell the truth. In a painful conversation, Young admitted that Judy was her biological daughter and that Clark Gable was her father. Even then, Young refused to discuss the matter publicly. Only in 1994 did Young finally admit publicly what everyone had suspected. Judy Lewis eventually wrote her autobiography, Uncommon Knowledge. She described meeting Gable once when she was 15, how he looked at her with clear recognition but said nothing. The double life that protected two stars' careers created collateral damage. A daughter who spent decades not knowing her true identity, who struggled with feelings of abandonment. Now let me ask you something. We've covered secret affairs, hidden orientations, fake marriages, and hidden children. You think that's the full picture? This next section takes us somewhere even more complex. Stars whose double lives involved hiding multiple relationships at the same time. Marlene Dietrich, the seductress with a secret. Marlene Dietrich was Hollywood's ultimate seductress. The sultry German actress whose romantic conquests of famous men were legendary. She was linked romantically to Gary Cooper, John Wayne, Frank Sinatra, and countless others. But Dietrich's private life included a dimension the public never saw. She maintained passionate relationships with women throughout her career, relationships that were every bit as significant as her involvements with men. The studio system protected Dietrich's double life by promoting only her relationships with men. If she was photographed with a female companion, they were described as close friends. Her female companions included actress Mercedes d'Acosta, with whom she exchanged passionate letters written in a coded mixture of French, German, and English. She had a lengthy involvement with singer Edith Piaf, and there were persistent rumors about Greta Garbo. Dietrich's double life was aided by her husband, Rudolf Sieber, whom she married in 1923 and never divorced despite decades of living on different continents. Their arrangement was unusual but effective. She supported him financially, he provided the cover of marriage, and both were free to have their own relationships. What made Dietrich's double life different was that she never seemed particularly troubled by it. She simply understood that American audiences weren't ready for that truth. In one letter to d'Acosta, she wrote, "When I am with you, I am complete. When I am without you, I am merely performing." Dietrich passed away in 1992 in her Paris apartment. When she was laid to rest, both her male and female lovers came to pay their respects, but they couldn't be in the same room together. The division she'd maintained in life followed her even to the grave. And speaking of men who loved both men and women, but could only show the world one side, Tyrone Power. The matinee idol's hidden truth. Tyrone Power was one of Hollywood's most successful leading men, breathtakingly handsome with classical features. He was married 3 times to beautiful women. His image as a devoted husband was unquestioned. Behind this, Power had significant romantic involvement with men. His most notable relationship was with actor Cesar Romero. The two men were close friends publicly, but their relationship was far more intimate in private. Power's double life was carefully managed by the studio. His marriages served the crucial purpose of deflecting questions. What made Power's situation more complex was that his interests genuinely included both men and women. This made the double life even more complicated. But here's where the compartmentalization almost failed. In 1952, Power was photographed at a private party with Romero, looking far too comfortable. The studio recalled every print within 24 hours. But Power knew he was one photograph away from complete destruction. The strain may have contributed to Power's early passing. In 1958, while filming a sword fight scene, the 44-year-old actor suffered a massive cardiac event and passed away within hours. After his passing, some of Power's male partners spoke carefully about their relationships with him. The matinee idol who made millions of women fantasize about romance was living a far more complicated romantic life than anyone suspected. But if Power's double life seemed complicated, wait until you hear about the next one. A wholesome family entertainer conducting a decade-long affair with one of the greatest actors who ever lived, Danny Kaye. The entertainer's 10-year secret. Danny Kaye was America's favorite entertainer, the wholesome comedian, singer, and actor who brought joy to millions through films like The Court Jester, White Christmas, and Hans Christian Andersen. He was married to Sylvia Fine, his manager and creative partner. He presented the image of a devoted family man. Behind this wholesome image, Kaye was conducting one of Hollywood's most surprising secret relationships. A decade-long intimate involvement with Laurence Olivier, one of the greatest actors of the 20th century. The relationship began in 1948 when Olivier and his wife, actress Vivien Leigh, came to California. Kaye and Olivier became inseparable almost immediately. Hollywood insiders gossiped privately, but the press maintained silence. Kaye's wife, Sylvia Fine, reportedly knew and accepted it, understanding that their marriage was as much a professional partnership. Olivier's wife, Vivian Lee, also reportedly knew and was troubled. Though she never made her knowledge public, the relationship was aided by the fact that both men had legitimate professional reasons to travel and spend time together frequently. They could be seen together without raising suspicions. The relationship lasted approximately 10 years before gradually cooling. Neither man ever publicly acknowledged it during their lifetimes. The truth emerged gradually after their passing. Olivier's family eventually acknowledged the relationship, with his son discussing it as part of his father's complex personal life. The wholesome entertainer and the distinguished actor had maintained a secret, intimate relationship for a decade without the public suspecting anything beyond professional friendship. Now, by this point, you might be noticing a pattern. These aren't just double lives. They're triple lives. The public face, the private truth, and the story they told themselves to make it bearable. And nowhere is that more evident than in what comes next. Stars who physically destroyed who they were. We'd love to hear from you. Which of these revelations surprised you most? And what aspect of Golden Age Hollywood would you like us to explore next? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Rita Hayworth, the all-American love goddess who erased her heritage. Stop me if you've heard this one. A love goddess, auburn hair, all-American beauty, and a secret so explosive it required physically altering her body for years. Rita Hayworth was the love goddess, the stunning actress whose pinup photo was so popular during World War II that it was attached to the atomic device tested at Bikini Atoll. She embodied all-American beauty in films like Gilda and CoverGirl. The truth? Rita Hayworth was born Margarita Carmen Cancino in Brooklyn, New York in 1918, the daughter of Spanish dancer Eduardo Cancino. Her natural appearance was dark-haired and olive-completed. She looked distinctly Latina, and the studios told her she would never succeed in Hollywood looking like herself. The transformation they demanded was comprehensive and painful. First came the alteration of her hairline through electrolysis treatments. Individual hairs removed using electric current applied to each follicle. The treatments were agonizing and took months. Gradually raising her hairline to make her forehead appear larger and more Anglo. Then her naturally dark hair was dyed auburn red. Her name was changed from Margarita Cancino to Rita Hayworth. She was coached intensively to eliminate any trace of accent or ethnic mannerisms. And this is where the double life becomes something darker than anything we've covered. It's not just hiding who you are. It's physically destroying who you are to become someone else. The transformation was so complete that many people didn't realize Rita Hayworth was Latina at all. She had effectively passed as white, which gave her access to leading roles that would have been denied to her as Margarita Cancino. Later in life, Hayworth spoke with increasing bitterness about the transformation. Her most famous quote captured the disconnect. "They go to bed with Gilda," she said, "but wake up with me." The cruel irony came in her later years when Hayworth developed early-onset Alzheimer's condition in her 50s. As her memory faded, she would sometimes revert to speaking Spanish, as if her true identity was finally breaking through the carefully constructed facade. By the time she passed away in 1987, the full story of her ethnic erasure was only beginning to be understood. The love goddess had lived a painful double life, playing the all-American fantasy on screen while privately mourning the identity she'd been forced to abandon. But if you think erasing your ethnicity is the ultimate transformation, wait until you meet the working-class boy who created an entirely new human being, and then spent his whole life wondering which one was real. Cary Grant, the working-class boy who became Cary Grant. Cary Grant was the epitome of sophisticated masculinity, elegant, charming, appearing completely comfortable in high society. Everything about him suggested he was born to privilege. It was all an extraordinarily disciplined performance. Cary Grant was born Archibald Alexander Leach in 1894 in Bristol, England, to an impoverished working-class family. His father worked in a garment factory. His mother struggled with mental health issues that led to her institutionalization. Young Archie grew up in genuine poverty. The most traumatic event came when he was 9. His mother simply disappeared. His father told him she had passed away. The truth, which he didn't discover until his 20s, was far more devastating. His father had committed his mother to a mental institution and lied about it. This betrayal left profound psychological scars. The working-class boy who'd been abandoned and deceived would spend decades creating a new identity so thoroughly that he could never escape the feeling of being an imposter. Young Archie left school at 13 and joined a traveling acrobatics troupe. When he eventually made his way to Hollywood, he was a working-class performer with a thick Bristol accent and rough manners. The transformation from Archie Leach to Cary Grant was total. He worked meticulously to eliminate every trace of his working-class Bristol accent, eventually developing the refined mid-Atlantic accent he became famous for. He studied the mannerisms of wealthy men. He learned about fine wine, art, literature, and culture, all the reference points that educated, wealthy people took for granted. But the double life took a severe psychological toll. Despite becoming one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Grant spent decades feeling like a fraud. "I pretended to be somebody I wanted to be," he later admitted, "and I finally became that person. Or he became me. Or we met at some point." The confusion reveals the depth of his identity crisis. In the late 1950s, Grant's psychological struggles led him to begin therapeutic sessions using a then-legal experimental treatment involving a powerful substance that altered consciousness. He underwent over 100 sessions. The sessions helped Grant confront the trauma and the strain of living a double life for decades. He began to integrate the two parts of himself, Archie Leach and Cary Grant. His last words to his wife Barbara before the heart attack that took his life? According to those present, he whispered, "I'm not Cary Grant." Even at the end, he couldn't escape the question that had haunted him for 50 years. When Grant passed away in 1986, obituaries celebrated Cary Grant the icon. The question remained. Which one was real, Archie Leach or Cary Grant? Perhaps both were real. And the tragedy was that Grant felt he could only show the world one of them. And if becoming someone entirely new sounds extreme, the next star took it even further, erasing her past so completely that even her own children didn't know who she really was. Joan Crawford, the shop girl who invented an aristocrat. Joan Crawford was Hollywood royalty by the 1940s and 50s. Elegant, sophisticated, the embodiment of glamour. She moved through life with the bearing of someone born to privilege. The truth was dramatically different. Crawford was born Lucille Fay LeSueur in San Antonio, Texas, in 1904. Her childhood was marked by severe poverty. Her father abandoned the family. Her mother worked as a laundress. Young Lucille worked as a waitress and shopgirl. When she arrived in Hollywood after winning a dancing contest, the studio recognized she had potential. But they decided her background wouldn't do. They changed her name through a fan magazine contest, settling on Joan Crawford. They began manufacturing a new biography that erased poverty. Crawford embraced the transformation with obsessive dedication. She worked tirelessly to eliminate any trace of her working-class roots. She studied how wealthy women moved, spoke, and dressed. She read books on etiquette and sophistication. She cultivated friendships with actual society figures. The double life Crawford maintained was about the image of absolute perfection she presented at all times. She needed people to believe she had always been the polished Joan Crawford. This obsessive need for control extended to her adopted children. According to her daughter Christina's memoir, Mommy Dearest, Crawford enforced rigid discipline and impossibly high standards. The memoir revealed a woman who couldn't relax, even in private. What made Crawford's transformation remarkable was how thoroughly she embodied her created identity. Crawford seems to have believed her own mythology so completely that Lucille LeSueur ceased to exist. The double life came at significant personal cost. Crawford's perfectionism made genuine intimacy extremely difficult. Her marriages repeatedly failed. Her relationships with her children were troubled. When Crawford passed away in 1977, her obituaries celebrated Joan Crawford the star. Only later did people begin to understand the psychological cost of so thoroughly becoming someone else. The deeper tragedy was that she genuinely tried to be the person she'd created. But the rigid perfection she demanded left no room for the vulnerable, wounded child who'd grown up poor and scared. Okay, deep breath. Because what we're about to cover, these aren't just double lives anymore. These are stories where the FBI got involved, where Senate hearings happened, where the secrets became matters of national security. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler investigated as a Nazi spy. The FBI file landed on J. Edgar Hoover's desk with a thud. Subject: Hollywood's biggest swashbuckling hero. Allegation: possible treason. Errol Flynn was Hollywood's quintessential hero, the dashing star of adventure films like The Adventures of Robin Hood, Captain Blood, and The Seahawk. He played men of honor and bravery, heroes who always fought for what was right. But while Flynn played heroes on screen, the Federal Bureau of Investigation was building a file on him that would eventually exceed 100 pages. The Bureau suspected Flynn of being a sympathizer with fascist movements, possibly even an active agent. Unlike other Hollywood stars who were vocally opposed to fascism, Flynn was conspicuously silent. More concerning, he had close relationships with several known sympathizers. His first wife had connections to certain European officials under suspicion. Most significantly, Flynn had traveled to Spain in 1937 during the Civil War, ostensibly working as a journalist. However, Bureau reports suggested he was actually gathering intelligence for the nationalist forces. His published dispatches seemed to favor the fascist side. During World War II, when Hollywood rallied enthusiastically, Flynn's participation was notably lukewarm. While actors like James Stewart and Clark Gable enlisted, Flynn claimed a series of medical exemptions: tuberculosis, a heart condition, malaria. The Bureau suspected he was deliberately avoiding military duty. The most serious allegation claimed that Flynn used his celebrity status to develop relationships with women connected to military officials, extracting confidential information during intimate moments that he would then pass to fascist contacts. These alleged operations were sophisticated and potentially devastating to American security. Flynn's yacht became another focus of surveillance. Agents documented suspicious late-night meetings off the California coast with unidentified individuals. Reports suggested the yacht was being used for clandestine communications with foreign handlers. However, the evidence remained largely circumstantial. No definitive proof ever emerged. He was never charged. Flynn himself addressed the rumors obliquely in his 1959 autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways. He wrote cryptically about his wartime activities and admitted he had played both sides. Flynn passed away later that year at age 50, his bureau file still active. When portions were eventually declassified, historians found themselves with more questions than answers. The swashbuckler who played heroes on screen was investigated as a potential traitor in real life. Even now, portions of his FBI file remain redacted. But if Flynn faced FBI scrutiny, the next star faced something even more devastating: public condemnation from the floor of the United States Senate itself. Ingrid Bergman, the saint who became the Scarlet Woman. Ingrid Bergman was Hollywood's angel, the wholesome Swedish actress who embodied purity and virtue. She portrayed nuns, saints, and noble heroines. Her role as Ilsa in Casablanca made her an icon of romantic sacrifice. Her performance in The Bells of St. Mary's cemented her image as the ideal of feminine goodness. America didn't just admire Bergman, they revered her. She represented everything wholesome about Hollywood. Mothers wanted their daughters to be like her. The Catholic Church praised her performances. But Bergman was living a double life that would eventually explode in one of Hollywood's most spectacular scandals. While presenting this saintly image, she was trapped in an unhappy marriage to Swedish physician Petter Lindström. Their relationship had grown cold over the years. In 1949, everything changed when Bergman traveled to Italy to work with director Roberto Rossellini on the film Stromboli. When they met, the attraction was immediate and overwhelming. Within weeks, they began an affair that would change both their lives forever. The affair was conducted in secret initially. For months, she maintained the double life: the virtuous, married actress to the public, the woman desperately in love in private. Then Bergman became pregnant with Rossellini's child. In February 1950, while still legally married, she wrote to Lindström asking for a divorce and revealing the pregnancy. When news broke publicly that America's saint was having an affair and an out-of-wedlock baby, the reaction was explosive. The backlash was unprecedented. Bergman was denounced from the floor of the United States Senate by Colorado Senator Edwin C. Johnson, who publicly condemned her as a powerful influence for evil. Churches organized boycotts. Women's groups called for her banishment. Fan clubs disbanded. The mail she received turned from adoring to hateful overnight. What made the scandal particularly devastating was the extreme hypocrisy it exposed. The Virgin Saint image had been manufactured by studios. The audience believed it completely. They felt personally betrayed when they learned the truth: that Bergman was a real woman with real desires and human flaws. Bergman was effectively exiled from Hollywood. She remained in Italy, obtained her divorce, and married Rossellini. They had 3 children together, including daughter Isabella, who would later become a famous actress. For 7 years, Bergman was persona non grata, punished not just for the affair, but for shattering the illusion. Eventually, Hollywood began to forgive her. In 1956, she returned to American films with Anastasia. She won her 2nd Academy Award. When she appeared at the Oscar ceremony in 1959, she received a standing ovation, a form of public absolution. But the price she had paid for those 7 years was steep. Bergman lost prime career years, lost millions, and suffered psychological trauma from the hatred directed at her. Bergman's story illustrates the crushing burden of maintaining an inauthentic public image when that image is fundamentally at odds with your true self. When she finally chose authenticity, she was nearly destroyed by it. The Angel Who Fell from Grace taught Hollywood an important lesson about the cost of the double lives female stars were expected to maintain. Punishment for women who broke the rules was far harsher than for men. Now here's where it gets really calculated. What we're about to cover aren't accidents or affairs. These are arranged marriages, where studios engineered it, down to the price tag. If this exploration has opened your eyes, please hit that like button and share this video. Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor. Hollywood's perfect couple was perfectly fake. In 1939, Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor were married in a highly publicized ceremony. Stanwyck was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Taylor was the impossibly handsome leading man called the man with the perfect profile. The reality? Their marriage was a lavender marriage, a union between two individuals, frequently both oriented toward their own gender, designed to hide their true romantic interests. But here's what made this different. The studio didn't just approve this marriage, they arranged it. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was increasingly concerned about persistent rumors. Taylor's exceptionally handsome appearance and his lack of interest in dating women publicly were raising questions. The studio decided he needed to marry a woman to silence the speculation. Stanwyck, who had herself been the subject of speculation about relationships with women, was an ideal choice. Both parties entered the arrangement, understanding its true purpose: mutual protection. They appeared together at public events. They posed for magazine photo shoots. The studio publicity machine worked tirelessly to present them as the ideal Hollywood marriage. But privately, they maintained largely separate lives. Friends described them as fond of each other like business partners. But there was no passionate love story. The arrangement lasted 13 years. But by 1951, Taylor had met actress Ursula Tease and developed a genuine romantic interest. The divorce was handled with extreme care. Both were careful never to say anything negative about each other publicly. Years later, when a reporter asked about regrets, Stanwyck gave a rare moment of honesty. "I regret," she said carefully, "that some people never get to really love someone. Not for a contract, not for cameras. Just love." The truth emerged gradually over many decades. But during the marriage itself, the double life had been maintained successfully. And if you think the studio arranging a marriage is calculated, wait until you hear what they did next. They literally paid the bride. Van Johnson, the boy next door's studio-arranged wife. Van Johnson was Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's boy next door, the all-American heartthrob with red hair, freckles, and a sunny disposition. During World War II, Johnson became one of Hollywood's biggest stars. The significant problem? Van Johnson's romantic interests were directed toward men. And in 1947, when rumors began to circulate, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer executives decided decisive action was necessary. The solution was a lavender marriage, a wedding to Evie Wynn. The marriage was transactional from its very beginning. Evie was compensated financially to marry Johnson and maintain the fiction of a happy marriage. She agreed to the arrangement. Johnson received the cover he desperately needed. Van and Evie appeared together at premieres and Hollywood parties. They gave joint interviews. They were photographed at home looking like the perfect suburban couple. Privately, the arrangement allowed Johnson to continue his actual romantic life with men. What made the arrangement particularly challenging was that it required Evie to live an elaborate fiction. For years, she played the role of devoted wife while having no real marriage at all. The arrangement lasted until 1968, 21 years. The divorce was handled very quietly. Evie received a substantial financial settlement. Years later, when asked if she had any regrets, her answer was telling: "I regret that Van never got to really love someone. Not for a contract, not for cameras. Just love." The Van Johnson-Lavender marriage reveals the studio system at its most calculated. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer actively arranged it, negotiated the financial terms, and compensated Evie to participate. He had essentially no choice, but at least Johnson and Stanwyck were hiding their true romantic interests. The next star? She was hiding everything. Her real nationality, her real name, even her real accent. Claudette Colbert, the French mystery who wasn't French. What do you do when your accent gives away your secret? You learn a completely new one and maintain it flawlessly for 50 years. Claudette Colbert was Hollywood's sophisticated French actress. Elegant, charming, with a delightful accent that reminded American audiences of Paris. She starred in classics like It Happened One Night, for which she won the Academy Award. It was an almost complete fabrication. Claudette Colbert was born Émilie Chauchouin in 1903 in Saint-Mande, France. But her family immigrated to New York when she was just 3 years old. She grew up in Manhattan, attended American public schools, and spoke English as her primary language. When she arrived in Hollywood, Colbert, or rather the studios, recognized that exotic foreignness would set her apart. So she exaggerated her French connection significantly, affecting a more pronounced accent, emphasizing her European roots. The double life extended beyond her fabricated nationality. Colbert lived for decades with Verna Hull, officially described as her secretary and companion, in an arrangement that many believed was actually a romantic relationship. Colbert was known for being intensely private and controlling about her image. She insisted on being photographed only from her left side and would refuse to work with directors who wouldn't accommodate this demand. What made Colbert's double life particularly successful was her meticulous attention to every detail. She never slipped out of the French accent in public, maintaining it consistently for decades. The double life also involved her 1935 marriage to Joel Pressman, a physician. The marriage lasted until his passing in 1968. But throughout, she continued living primarily with Verna Hull. Colbert maintained her elaborate double life until her passing in 1996, at age 92. She never publicly acknowledged that her French identity was largely manufactured. The multiple layers of Colbert's double life reveal how Hollywood created identities that had only a tangential relationship to reality. Deep breath. Because what we're about to cover, these aren't just double lives anymore. These are triple lives. Public face, private truth, and secret families hidden on the other side of the world. William Holden, the All-American star's secret Asian daughter of this next one. I'm still not sure if he's a victim or a villain. You decide. William Holden was the epitome of American masculinity. Rugged, handsome, and starring in classics like Sunset Boulevard, Stalag 17, and The Bridge on the River Kwai. He was married to actress Brenda Marshall for 30 years. But Holden was living a complex double life that involved a secret family on the other side of the world. During the 1950s, while married and at the peak of his fame, Holden had a relationship during time spent in Asia that resulted in a daughter. Rather than acknowledging the child publicly, Holden made the decision to keep the daughter's existence completely secret. The arrangement Holden made was both practical and heartbreaking. He provided substantial financial support throughout her life. He maintained some contact in private. But publicly, the daughter simply didn't exist. Holden's trips to Asian countries included secret visits to his daughter. Money was transferred through intermediaries. The daughter herself grew up understanding she could never publicly acknowledge her famous father. Holden was essentially living three completely separate lives: the public movie star, the Hollywood husband, and the secret father. The secrecy took an obvious emotional toll. Friends noted his increasing struggles with alcohol and depression. He couldn't talk about his daughter with most people, couldn't introduce her to his social circle. Holden passed away in 1981 after a tragic accident in his apartment. He was alone and wasn't discovered for several days. Only after his passing did the story of his secret daughter begin to emerge. The revelation shocked Holden's fans and complicated his legacy significantly. Holden's story raises uncomfortable questions about the costs of maintaining Hollywood's carefully constructed illusions. And speaking of erasing family members, the next star erased not one relationship, but an entire marriage. Loretta Young, the teen bride who pretended to be single. Loretta Young was Hollywood's epitome of beauty, grace, and devout Catholic faith. She maintained an image of purity that was central to her brand. She famously kept a swear box on her film sets. But Young was living a double life that began when she was barely more than a child herself. In 1930, at just 17, Young secretly married Grant Withers, an actor who was 26. The marriage was an elopement. When they returned and the marriage became known, both the studio and Young's mother were absolutely furious. The problem was complex. First, Withers was divorced, making the marriage invalid in the eyes of the Catholic Church. Second, the studio had invested in marketing Young as a pure, virginal ingenue, and marriage completely destroyed that image. The solution? Pretend it never happened. The studio worked with church authorities to have the marriage annulled, but more importantly, they worked aggressively to erase it from public consciousness. Young went back to living and being marketed as a single woman. But Young's double life extended far beyond this. Her most significant deception involved her daughter with Clark Gable. Throughout her career, Young maintained an absolutely pristine public image of Catholic virtue, while privately having relationships that contradicted that image. The need to maintain this double life created significant psychological strain. Young was genuinely religious. Her Catholicism wasn't fake. But the gap between her public image and her private reality created painful cognitive dissonance. In her final years before her passing in 2000, she admitted to the affair with Gable and the true parentage of her daughter Judy, but other secrets remained buried. Young's story illustrates how the gap between public image and private reality could be particularly wide and painful for female stars, marketed based on virtue. And if hiding a marriage sounds extreme, imagine being America's moral hero on screen, while studio fixers covered up an affair that ended with an illegal termination of pregnancy. Gary Cooper and Patricia Neal, the 3-year lie that destroyed 2 lives. Gary Cooper was the embodiment of American integrity. Tall, handsome, understated, and known for playing heroes and men of principle. He was married to socialite Veronica "Rocky" Cooper and had a daughter. His image was wholesome and family-oriented. That image concealed a 3-year double life that would devastate everyone involved. In 1948, Cooper met Patricia Neal, a talented actress 25 years his junior, on the set of The Fountainhead. Despite being married with a family, they began an affair that would last 3 years. The double life Cooper led was exhausting. He would film during the day, attend public events with his wife, then spend nights with Neal in secret locations. Studio fixers helped arrange secret meetings and provided alibis. Neal fell deeply in love with Cooper. She believed his promises that he would eventually leave his wife. Cooper, genuinely torn between his feelings for Neal and his Catholic guilt, made promises he couldn't keep. The crisis came in 1950 when Neal became pregnant. For Cooper, this was catastrophic. The pregnancy threatened to expose the affair, destroy his marriage, ruin both their careers. Under intense pressure from Cooper, Neal agreed to undergo an illegal procedure to end the pregnancy. In 1950, such procedures were both medically risky and legally dangerous. Cooper arranged everything. Neal went through with it, later describing it as the saddest thing that ever happened to me and her greatest regret. The procedure didn't save the relationship. Cooper, consumed by Catholic guilt, couldn't continue. He ended the affair, recommitting to his marriage. He underwent a religious reconversion. Neal, absolutely devastated, left Hollywood temporarily for Broadway. For both, the double life and its consequences left permanent psychological scars. Cooper never forgave himself. He passed away from cancer in 1961. Neal channeled her immense pain into her acting. She eventually found happiness in her marriage to writer Roald Dahl, but she never forgot Cooper. In her 1988 autobiography, she wrote openly about the relationship, the pregnancy, and the procedure. The most tragic aspect was that it was all in service of protecting an image. Cooper's wholesome reputation was worth more to the studios than Neal's physical safety and emotional well-being. Neal later stated she believed the illegal procedure had damaged her reproductive system. Their son Theo suffered severe brain damage as an infant, and their daughter Olivia passed away from measles encephalitis at age 7. Neal herself suffered a series of severe strokes, but survived. Cooper and Neal's story illustrates perhaps the darkest aspect of Hollywood's culture of double lives. It wasn't just about maintaining images. It was about the very real, lasting harm done to real people. And if you think that's the ultimate price paid for a double life, you haven't yet heard the final story. Because the most sophisticated double life of all wasn't about hiding scandal. It was about transforming personal compromise into a narrative of feminist empowerment so convincing that it fooled the entire world, and maybe even herself. Katharine Hepburn, the independent woman who was never truly independent. Katharine Hepburn was Hollywood's great icon of female independence, fiercely independent, refusing to play by Hollywood's rules, living life on her own terms. She wore pants when women were expected to wear dresses. She rejected studio control. She never married Spencer Tracy despite their decades-long relationship because, she always said, she didn't need marriage to validate herself. Except that her greatest performance was this carefully constructed image itself. The reality behind the legend was far more complicated and conventional than the mythology Hepburn constructed. The double life began with her actual marriage, which Hepburn largely erased from her public history. In 1928, at age 21, she married socialite Ludlow Ogden Smith. The marriage lasted 6 years before ending in divorce. But Hepburn rarely discussed this marriage, and when she did, she dismissed it as a youthful mistake. The supposedly proudly unmarried independent woman had actually been married. She just chose to have everyone forget about it. More significantly, the image of Hepburn as independently choosing not to marry Tracy was carefully curated mythology. The truth was that Tracy absolutely refused to divorce his wife Louise because of his devout Catholic faith. Hepburn didn't nobly choose independence. She accepted the situation Tracy imposed because the only alternative was losing him entirely. For 26 years, Hepburn lived as Tracy's secret companion. While publicly, she was the liberated woman who needed no man, privately, she was organizing her entire life around Tracy's needs, his schedule, his declining health, and his struggles with alcoholism. The double life extended to how Hepburn presented the relationship after Tracy's passing. In interviews, in her autobiography, She framed their relationship as a passionate love affair between equals, with her supposedly choosing not to push for marriage out of respect for his religious beliefs. This version made her seem magnanimous and genuinely independent. But those genuinely close to the situation told a quite different story. Hepburn had desperately wanted Tracy to divorce his wife and marry her. The celebrated independence was actually a face-saving reframe of a situation where she had been forced to accept far less than she wanted. Hepburn's double life also involved her relationships with women earlier in her career, which she never publicly acknowledged. Even her famous independence was partly a performance. Yes, Hepburn rejected many Hollywood conventions, but she also benefited enormously from family wealth. She came from an affluent, educated family and could afford to be independent in ways most actresses couldn't. What makes Hepburn's double life particularly interesting is that she actively helped create and maintain her own mythology. Unlike many stars whose studios invented their public images, Hepburn was intensely involved in constructing the image of Katharine Hepburn, a fiercely independent woman. She gave carefully strategic interviews. She wrote a deliberately curated autobiography. She controlled her public narrative better than almost any other Golden Age star. The double life worked brilliantly for her entire career and beyond. Hepburn became an absolute icon of female independence. The reality that she had spent 26 years as a married man's secret companion, accepting a situation that caused her private pain, was known to Hollywood insiders but never publicly acknowledged during her lifetime. When Hepburn passed away in 2003 at age 96, the obituaries celebrated her fierce independence. The double life she had maintained, presenting personal compromise as empowered choice, presenting painful constraint as desired freedom, was so thoroughly successful that it became accepted history. Katharine Hepburn's story reveals perhaps the most sophisticated double life of all. She wasn't hiding the scandal. She was carefully reframing a fairly conventional story of a woman loving an unavailable married man, transforming it through sheer force of narrative control into a story of feminist independence. The performance was so extraordinarily good that even now, decades after her passing, the mythology often overshadows the reality. The proudly independent woman, who was never truly free, spent her entire public life performing independence so skillfully that she convinced the world, and quite possibly convinced herself, that the performance was authentic reality. It was the greatest, most sustained, and most successful double life of all, living one truth while telling another so compellingly that the told version became the accepted truth. These 21 stories have taken us behind the carefully constructed facades of Hollywood's golden age. From fabricated identities to secret relationships. From marriages of convenience to hidden families. These beloved icons lived with constant deception, perpetual fear of exposure, and the enormous psychological burden of maintaining lives that contradicted their public images. What emerges is a portrait of an era when image was absolutely everything, and authenticity was nearly impossible. The studio system manufactured entire identities and ruthlessly enforced them through fixers who buried scandals and a complicit press. The psychological toll was enormous and often devastating. Rock Hudson lived in terror for 30 years. Raymond Burr invented an entire family. Merle Oberon couldn't acknowledge her own mother. Cary Grant felt like an imposter in his own life. Yet remarkably, most of these stars maintained their double lives successfully for decades. Nobody suspected a thing. The performances were so complete that audiences never questioned the carefully constructed images. The price extended far beyond the stars themselves. Secret children grew up not knowing their fathers. Women underwent dangerous, illegal procedures. People in marriages of convenience sacrificed years. What's striking is how unnecessary many of these secrets seem in retrospect. But in Hollywood's golden age, these truths were absolutely career-ending. The double lives were often so successful that many weren't exposed until after the stars had passed away. The full truth emerged only decades later. Yet even as we recognize the terrible burden, we should also acknowledge the extraordinary strength these stars displayed, living a double life for decades, maintaining elaborate deceptions while performing at the highest levels that required extraordinary discipline and courage. Their double lives also produced unexpected depth in their work. The pain and complexity often informed their performances, adding layers of authenticity. Rock Hudson's hidden vulnerability made his romantic roles unexpectedly poignant. Cary Grant's identity struggles gave his sophisticated performances surprising depth. As we close this journey, we're left with a more complete understanding of the human beings behind the legends. They weren't the perfect icons we believed them to be, but they were something far more interesting. Complex individuals navigating impossible circumstances, maintaining elaborate deceptions to survive. The stars of Hollywood's golden age shine no less brightly for having lived double lives. If anything, knowing the full truth makes their achievements more remarkable. They created beauty while living in fear. They maintained dignity while denying fundamental truths. If you've been captivated by this exploration, please subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the untold stories of classic cinema. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. These 21 stars remind us that the golden age wasn't as golden as it seemed. But the people who survived it were more remarkable than the perfect images they projected. They were beautifully, tragically, courageously human. And their stories deserve to be remembered and honored in their full, complicated truth. Until next time, this is the Golden Age Files, celebrating not just the dreams Hollywood sold us, but the real human beings who lived behind those dreams, the ones who paid the price for our entertainment and who deserve to finally be seen as they truly were. Thank you for watching. And thank you for caring enough about these remarkable people to learn their true stories.